Everything you watch, everything you read, everything you listen to, and every class you take is trying to convince you of something. The professor has a goal. The professor has an opinion, and they want to convince you of that opinion too. It's your responsibility to learn how to recognize it. Get good at hearing the bias in everything presented to you, whether it be on your own side or someone else's. You can practice that now with everything you watch. The movies and TV shows that you're watching that you might think, oh, this is just a storyline, and this is just a character making decisions. But then you have to remember someone is writing that storyline for a reason. They want to convince you of something.
Pretty sharp. Joining me now, Abby Roth. She is the creator of Classically Abby. It's something that can help equip you for this world we're living in. I'll put it to you that way. Abby, people were very naive, and many people on the right have been very naive for a very long time when it comes to things like education, movies too, but education, and that they say things like, well, we should just teach reading and writing in school, as if that's something that's at all humanly possible. You have a human being up in front of the class, a human being's going to have biases, and they're going to teach those biases to your children. There is no stopping that.
Absolutely. It's crazy. I mean, and it starts from the time children are in kindergarten, right? We're seeing it with transgender ideology, with woke ideology from the time kids are tiny. I mean, my husband and I have talked a lot about how it's so important to us. We're discussing homeschooling, which is something we never thought we would do. We had kind of written that off as something, oh, that's for other people. And now we have our own son, another one on the way. And we're thinking, you know, what's really important is me being involved, me being the one who's actually imparting knowledge to my children instead of someone who has a bias, someone who has a goal and is trying to, you know, indoctrinate my child. And then we're seeing that in colleges too. You know, it's not just little children who are being indoctrinated. It's 18-year-olds. 18-year-olds think they've got it all figured out. They've got nothing figured out, to be honest. And when you go into college thinking you know everything, and then your teachers are presenting things as fact, you're going to be in the same exact scenario as you were when you were in public school as a 2-year-old, ready and willing to take whatever is said to you as complete fact. And that's a big mistake and a big problem.
It's a big mistake. This issue is personal to me because I get emails every day to my show from parents who have sent their children off to school because you got to go to college to get a good job. You know, we've all been told that line our whole lives. And their daughter comes home from school, their son comes home from school, unrecognizable for the child they raised. And they're just heartbroken. Jesse, I don't understand how this could happen. Your 18-year-old is not fully formed. Your 18-year-old is pliable. It's just clay.
Totally. I hate seeing that because I think a lot of people don't realize how far the colleges and universities have gone as far as being to the left. I mean, I think I just did a stat in that speech you showed about how 98% of, I don't remember which university it was, but 98% of the staff and professors at this university donated to Democrat candidates in 2020. And I mean, that's very indicative of what they are trying to sell you and sell your children. So I think this naivete about how everyone needs to go to college, which, by the way, I hate that as a standard. I think that that's a really bad standard, given that most people who are going to college nowadays have no idea what they want to study. So they just go and put themselves in debt and study something that is totally irrelevant to whatever they're going to do in the future. I think that is a problem in and of itself. And then you have people going and not knowing that they're going to be indoctrinated. So you can prepare your kids as much as you can, but an 18-year-old is still an 18-year-old, and putting them in the belly of the beast is just a recipe for disaster as far as your children actually coming out as conservatives and well-informed conservatives at that.
Yeah, imagine dropping $100,000 to put your child in that just so they can find themselves, or whatever hippie crap they say nowadays about college. All right, I want to focus on something different. You went to the Manhattan School of Music and you sang opera. Now that sounds like it has to be the most calming environment in the history of mankind. What was that like?
Yeah, I would say that's about right. The day after Trump was elected, many people on the staff and many students showed up in black. They showed up wearing mourning clothes as if they were grieving, and a lot of our professors excused us from class if it was just too emotional. I'm not going to lie and
Ah,
deny the fact that I definitely took advantage of that just to get a day off of school, but many students actually needed that. That was kind of the environment that I was in, and it meant that I, who was on the right, on the right, obviously conservative, I felt like I couldn't say a word about my beliefs because I knew I would be blacklisted. I mean, people talked about politics openly, but only if you were on the left. And that's kind of a thing I talk about a lot, is that I don't believe people need to talk about politics in the workplace. I think that's a big mistake, actually. But if you are going to talk about politics in the workplace, if that's something that has been okayed by everybody, you can't just have it be on one side or the other. You have to be able to have a conversation. And so in my space of obviously the arts, opera, it meant everyone was talking about politics, but only if you were on the left. And it silenced all of those of us who were on the right, which was a fair number of people, but none of us actually knew it until it kind of came out that I was on the right. So it was, yeah, I mean, it was an environment that bred leftism, and it didn't allow for diversity of thought.
are we too silent? Because I hear this story a lot, and it's totally understandable. A 18-year-old girl walks onto a college campus and surrounded by people who hate everything she stands for. You're going to shut up. You're going to sit in the back of the class and not say a word. Do we need to try to change that mentality? Should we be more aggressive? Maybe not necessarily on campus, maybe not necessarily in work, but we all talk about going to the family Thanksgiving and liberal Aunt Peggy comes in harping about how much she loves abortion. We all kind of roll our eyes or walk away. Should we let her know that she's full of crap?
So actually, I am maybe going to flip that. I think in a family environment, depending on the situation, it can just be too much to get into like big family political arguments, because sometimes peace in the home is important. Not always, but sometimes. When it comes to abortion, maybe not so much, but in other topics, maybe so. But as far as what I said about politics in the workplace, what I meant by that is, if people are not talking about it at all, that's fine. But I also think that, and I've changed on this. I used to think, just be quiet, just kind of leave it to yourself. You don't have to share your real thoughts on this. But I've since realized that doing this and staying quiet on these things on campus in your work is just going to isolate you more and more, and it's going to end up changing your own mind if you're constantly listening to the other side's positions and never challenging yourself to argue with them or to debate or even to say something in a respectful way and present the facts. You're going to end up more and more alone. And so I actually think it's really important to encourage people to actually speak out about their views. Speak out. Say what is the truth. We live in a culture war. That's what we're doing right now. We are in a culture war. And if we stay silent, then our children are going to suffer. So I think that now is the time to encourage young people, to encourage really everyone to be brave, speak out, be confident, because these things are going to define the people you spend your time with. And if you build your entire life on silence and someone finds out that you are conservative, finds out that you're on the other side of the aisle, and that could destroy your life, I mean, that's an incredibly stressful position to be in. And I would not encourage that for anyone, whether that be a college student or a grown person.
Yeah. Abby, that was awesome. Come back soon. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Are you tired of watching your beloved nation fall prey to the insidious grip of communism? The Anti-Communist Manifesto by Jesse Kelly is the ultimate guide to fighting back against this destructive force. Discover the shocking truth about communism infiltrating our education system, corporations, and even environmental movements. Unmask the true agenda behind groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and learn how to protect the United States from the most malicious enemy. With extensive documentation of past atrocities, you'll see the undeniable danger posed by this ideology. Arm yourself with knowledge and join the fight to preserve the American way of life. The Anti-Communist Manifesto, a new must-read book from Jesse Kelly. Get your copy today at jessekellybook.com or wherever books are sold.